What's up? What up? What's going on, everybody? We haven't been live in a couple days. I told you I was going to do 2 lives the following day. I didn't lie to you. It just took me longer to start. Now, don't get our hopes up, but the RCMP are going live with a broadcast later, talking about how they have brought in cadaver dogs in the search. They've outsourced it, and they're probably going to give themselves a big old pat on the back, tell each other how much of a great job they all do. They'll use it as an opportunity to virtue signal. All right. And they won't answer any questions related to the Jack and Lily Sullivan case because they have already preemptively come out and said that, oh, these these individuals that we're introducing today have absolutely nothing to do with the investigation into Jack and Lily. Joyous, and thank you very much. It's very generous, darling. Thank you very much. So they have some search, a big short list of areas that they want to search, and have the little bit of a honey-do list for that cadaver dog, and they'll go back through the different areas. It's an opportunity for them to, interact with the family. If you can get Janie and Daniel out of the trailer now. Janie's probably moved back in. She's got her feet up on the couch. They'll want to sniff around a little bit, but let's not forget, we're all highly suspect of them spending those hours that the hours of May 1st between, midnight and 5 a.m. to essentially clean and clear the scene. Now, these dogs are trained to pick up human decomposition. All of this stuff in an ideal investigation would have been done the first day, but not everybody has every resource available to them in the moment. And by all accounts, they were giving Daniel and Malayaia the benefit of the doubt by assuming, and that's what we're all afraid of, that the cops are doing a little bit too much assuming, because we're not a part of the investigation. So we're going to be eternally afraid because we don't get any real information, nor will we, nor should we. People are talking about this other write-up. What is it called? The Walrus? Some idiot newspaper that has written an article about a nothing burger, a big old nothing burger in that article, other than to talk about online rumors. There's no online rumors, especially when it comes to this case. Not that I've run about, but I don't go looking for it. All of the conversation has to do with the things that the suspects have say, and that leads to questions. If you can't see, now, I'm not even going to react to that because it's like a piece, it's a propaganda piece in the sense that it's more important to signal how unbiased you are at any one time in what would otherwise be the mainstream media will call that. And that's not even the mainstream media. That's a couple steps down. It's just some individual with a website, a news site. I've never heard of them. But it's an opportunity for them to signal, just how neutral they are in a circumstance that on the surface, if you read it, get all of your information through other sources like the CBC and the Globe and Mail and those mainstream pieces, you're not going to get yourself ahead. You've got to really entrench yourself and understand what's going on in the circumstance and what makes it an issue. Air the contentions. You don't get that in any of these circumstances, nor none of these so-called journalists have the balls to do that anymore. That's not what they're trained to do anymore. The fifth estate has escaped. Many of you already know that. It's what makes citizen journalism so very important in today's world, in political, social environment. Good to see everybody in chat. Thank you for joining today, by the way. Little side rant. But we'll see what they have to say. Anything. It's easy to sit on your soapbox and shit all over the RCMP. We'll see what they have to say. They're not going to give you any new information. Tammy, what are you talking about? Pull up that article in 2016 Global News, April 3rd sometime. It talks about their dogs. Interesting if you want to. I'm not interested. Not even interested, dude. I know about cadaver dogs. I know about tracking dogs. That doesn't mean anything. Hopefully something good comes out of it, but I'm not very... hopefully something good comes out of it. Hopefully they find Jack and Lily at this point in time. Yeah, irresistible, invisible, intuitive. Oh, invisible, intuitive. A little good news for once. You think that's good news? I mean, it's better than no news. I don't know. But to finish off my statement, it's easier and it's a lot more effective for a small publication like the Walrus to signal just how unbiased they are, and they're not susceptible to any of these blatant rumors that are out there. Which one are rumors? Which ones? What rumors? We don't go on rumors, pal. Who goes on rumors? Who's out there spreading rumors? All of the stupid people. From Jamie's perspective. I love that message Janie left. I took that post down about Janie talking about how she was going to leave this Facebook uncensored group because of all the stupid people in here. Oh, it's fantastic. On many different levels. But you get used to Janie and how she carries on and how she lies in that sense. She's got a pattern and a particular style. And you don't expect her to tell anywhere close to the truth with how much work she's put into this fabricated narrative at this point. But it's still fun to call her out and question her at every step of the way. And well, you should. Because they're lying. All right? That hasn't changed. None of this has changed in that sense. We're just getting that step closer in the progress of the investigation. That's good news. And I'm happy Belinda thinks it's good news. Because that means more to me than just my own shitty opinion in the circumstance. Mine's all tainted and polluted. I'm biased towards the family. I can't do anything about that. Isn't a game in that sense. Oh yeah, Wolfie, it's a beautiful day in Alberta. Good to see you. McKenna, good to see you. They should have had them out months ago. Yeah, exactamundo. Listen, I'm not even gonna... Listen, I agree with you. I agree with you so much, McKenna, but I'm not going to even hold that against them at this point. At least it's a step in the right direction, and it's probably not the time or the place, and I probably shouldn't do that. I should be happy and thankful that they're putting resources into it in this circumstance. In this way, absolutely. And that, you've got to control. It's easy to get really upset and angry at the establishment. And well, you have every right to. It's just a little early for that yet. Would it help educate my viewers? My viewers already know the difference between tracking dogs and cadaver dogs, Dana Park. If you don't know the difference, you may as well search them up. We know the difference. I'm not looking to educate my viewers in that sense, in that regards. It's a sidetrack. It's a sidetrack. Sandra, small town, small minds, spread the story. Wonder what sort of things people are saying around there in New Glasgow. Because the other 14 in Lansdowne Station are all related. Seemingly. Osprey. It's actually a good time for cadaver dogs. Yeah, before the snow falls. Animals scratching and digging up ground for food and hibernation. Yep. Rain, cooler weather. Dogs will have no trouble finding remains if they find any. Yeah, that's an interesting point, Osprey. You don't like that it's a private meeting, though, Julia? Janie will have to do something with her dog. Dog's probably bald by now. That dog's probably bald. They should have had the dogs out there in the beginning. Yeah, you're right, Dana. Absolutely. Yeah, you can't. I mean, if the point of having them out immediately is to capture the scene, presumably before it's cleaned up in a way that's 100% effective. You know, how well did they clean it? And that's presuming that our suspicions are true in the sense that the kids were deceased and they had to have transported them somewhere using something. Now, some of that decomposition should hopefully have transferred onto the vehicles, in which would stand out to the dog in the most distinctual way because it's the most fresh. Now, it's great that it's not next year. Yeah, I'm happy that the dogs are here. I'm happy. Not that I think it's a big game changer, but I'm open to being surprised. One moment, please. Then my question is what and how did they... Where are the locations in which they're going to search, I wonder? That would be the most interesting thing to me. Now would be a great time to have Tint out there, or be down there, out there following them around with a camera, getting some updates, interacting with them. It's not the RCMP doing it. It'll be somebody that they brought in. Somebody that they work closely with. Licensed to print money right there. Oops, my rates just went up 500%. Oh, okay, gotta love it. You gotta make it when you can, right? If they're bringing in the scent dogs now, that tells me that they have new information on these poor babies. Pray for good news. Not really, BBB. You can do all the praying you want. All it is a part of the process. Hey, Jen R. Not necessarily. You know, they already told you earlier on, way back in May, really, that they didn't think Jack and Lily would be able to make it independently, you know, and they would have been, you know, unalive at that point. So what they're doing is, if they have a missing persons and they have this file, they, you know, bring in the dogs, thinking that, you know, it's just another step in ruling out the potential that they just voluntarily walked away. That's being insinuated, though not committed to linguistically necessarily, by any number of the people that last saw them or lived with them, which were a lot more than just one. They were all each other's alibi in this circumstance. And the alibi has blown apart. We all know that. You have to assume that the police know that. So bringing in the dogs rules out, well, it can still, you know, the dogs can still get close to the earth rather than, you know, there being a great big blanket of snow covering everything, masking everything. A last-ditch attempt for any sort of evidence out there. But that's from my perspective. I mean, they'll have a list of places, presumably, and that's when it's okay to bring and spend the money at that point. And they have all the information. You've got to trust them to a point. Hey, BBB. Oh, no problem. This is a genuine situation here, BBB. You wonder how open Janie will be when they want to search her property. This is going to be a problem, right? Because that old rusty RV that she towed out of the dump already smells like decomp. The thing's just reeking in decomp from her. She's got a bum leg. She probably got open sores all over her legs. She needs the dog to lick them just to help heal them up. A disinfectant. Good to see you, Shay. They'll head right for her trailer. They'll probably start mating with her dog in there, and she'll freak out right in front of the cops, brutalize the animals. They won't even think anything of it. Oh, she's got a heart condition. We have to treat her with all of this. What does she do? How does Janie demand to be treated? Don't judge me. Don't judge me. We got some new Janie clips, by the way. You probably heard them over on Ninchies. There's a couple in there that are interesting. Oh, there's bogs, marshy areas all over the place, Julia. I'm just not confident that they've had all of this time to clear their tracks. The only places... Well, I'm not part of the investigation. I'm just telling you my concerns off the bat. Hopefully I need not be concerned. Hopefully they sniff a lot more than just, the areas they were last seen. Like, there's talk about Justin's car. Now, Daniel had a posting up a couple years ago with this blue Subaru. What was it? A little Subaru? Was it a little Lancer? No. It was a Subaru. It's a 5-speed. I'm sure it's a 5-speed. It'll be a stick. And it has all kinds of upgrades to it that you'd be able to hear it like exhaust. Like he's it's just a car that's done up. It's a little Impreza, thank you. A little Subaru Impreza. Like from the Fast and the Furious with a clutch kit on it. Right, Christian, with a clutch kit. I thought that was extremely interesting. Nice little car. Yeah, it is a standard. I strongly suspect that I don't know for sure, because there's some alternate possibilities that could have occurred. You would think that they would have had to, with sometime within those trips between 12 and 5, if they were using that car, they would be able to detect any sort of decomp. Now, it would all depend on how the children were bundled up, or how the bodies were bundled up, if any of that transferred. They were careful to cover their tracks in that sense. I feel that they were. I don't think it's going to be an easy... I mean, what would you do? You would focus around drains. You remember in the Monkey Vaughn situation, they brought in cadaver dogs. How long, does anyone remember, after the fact was it when they brought in dogs and they picked up decomp? It was months. But the thing was they were carting around the body, and they had the body buried under the barbecue. And then they came in and dug up the entire backyard and didn't find anything. Except the dogs hitting on decomp, which is significant. What's going on, MCM? Daniel says that they must have slid the door open. Did they slide into the muddy water of the creek? Is Daniel revealing through leakage in his statements? Sliding? Slid? Well, that's a tough one, because It's a sliding door. MCM. But I get you. You're looking for some of that leakage within the avoidance. Daniel leaks muddy water tragedy incident all the time. Yeah. Says he did all of the dirt roads, culverts, rivers, and streams. At some point out there's got to be an end of the line, though. Even though that he brought in all of these other people to obscure the crime scene, there's still got to be clues within that they can pull from. Especially images from drone shots at the time. They had the drones out monitoring, searching. I wonder where that footage is. Oh, probably in RCMP headquarters, next to the Christmas cake. Oh, listen. This case is obviously solvable for them in this sense. You would have to think that they're waiting for a particular reason. There's no possible way that they're going to allow this scenario to just go cold and prefer not to talk about it. I can't see that. I can't see that because at the end of it, even though it's a big faceless, ugly establishment, there's still human beings that work there. Especially in the major crimes unit. How much did they get to call their shots, I wonder, without being influenced by an outside source? A more senior official in that circumstance that tells you that, don't investigate that anymore, something like that. I don't have the answers to any of that, but you know what happens. I try not to get too outraged about it. But you should worry about it. You'd be wrong not to. It would be wrong not to. What's going on, Queez? It was interesting, though. They have a new article at the Globe and Mail in Canada. And it's by Lindsay Jones and Cheryl Sutherland. The Decibel staff, Greg Mercer. Oh, fantastic. Oh, hurrah, hurrah. Now, what I liked about it is they have a nice little, it's about a half an hour story they did on it, and it's available just by listening. It's an audio story, like a little vlog, if you will. Great for radio. Perfect for radio. And it's good. It's well done, and it really just showcases their personal, the Globe and Mail's personal perspective since the beginning of the case up to in the present situation, kind of condensed all of their own content in that sense, all of their own camera work. And it is a little bit different than some of the clips that you've heard on other channels, so it was worth a listen. Check it out if you want. What are you saying there, MMSV? Keep thinking what would shake someone up when they have given up long ago. Ooh, you're talking cryptic like Daniel. What are you talking about? Or checked out. I'm pretty sure kids missing would do it, but yes. You're probably responding to something I said. I can't remember. The road should have been blocked. Christine, you're talking about, yeah, how the entire scenario should have been treated differently on May 2nd. Well, we can't do much about it now. it's not ideal. Do you think it compromises everything else, though? Like it or not, they're going to be suspicious right away when the kids aren't there, and especially that they haven't been found. That the scenario that they've been presented isn't exactly as it seems, right? So you're going to carry it out as long as possible with the people who were last with the children. Malayaia, Janie, and Daniel. You don't have to believe anything that they say, but you still want to be in a position to be able to take information and ask them questions rather than chase them away, so to speak. The RCMP didn't open their minds to the possibilities here for Jack and Lily, particularly as CPS-CAS have already been to the home with concerns from the school. Well, you're bringing up a reasonable fear, a reasonable point. I don't disagree. But I'm not in a position to be able to say, yeah, you're right. That's what the problem is. Or that's a big problem in this circumstance, right? That's the problem. But we can certainly talk about the argument. We just have to make sure that you don't have to foster any unnecessary hatred because you've already made your mind up about something that may or may not have happened. Fuck, I should be on payroll at the RCMP. Oh, shit. They should put me on phones. Oh, dear. I'm even for them now. I'm even with them. I wish they'd bring in an MVM, Janie and Daniel, for more questioning as their talk of two people refusing polygraphs the second time around. Yeah, Wolfie? There's talk about them refusing the polygraph examinations the second time around. First of all, in their framework of investigation, from what I've learned, it's better for the RCMP, as aggravating as it is to watch. It's better for investigators to be dealing with this with a rapport, no matter how much of a douchebag Daniel and Janie are. And that's got to be a difficult job. Holy shit. That's the toughest part of your job at this point, is keeping rapport with these two scumbags. Well, that's why they get paid the big bucks, I guess. But I encourage them to put the pedal to the metal, if you know what I mean, when it comes to putting the cuffs on these sons of bitches. I just refuse to let my mind, because it's like copping out and just throwing blame on somebody else why your point isn't being made, or you don't expect. I'd never expect anything that we theorize about to be 100% true in that sense. You don't need to be that precise up here. You know that all the red flags and the indicators are there, and we talk about them all the time when it comes to deception. 1 second, please. My apologies. You listened to a recent clip with Daniel this morning. He was very emotional. Must be starting to worry about how many bubbas he will have to deal with when the walls close in, Darlene. He's okay. He's open. It's just an opportunity to meet new people. There's always a bright side. Oh, man. That's a good comment. MCM says Janie said that she was working on the fence boards. but was waiting on Daniel to get his tools and help. Never finished. Have you noticed that's kind of a theme? That's the going theme around their house. I think they're sticking to that theme, like a postmodernist type theme, which is called, trailer trashed unfinished. No joke. It's a thing. Janie will have a medical exceptions why her hands don't go behind her back. They still gave her the polygraph anyway, from what I understand, went through the motions and asked her the questions. They're just not considering the fact that she damn near fried out the electronics on the circuit board because the thing was acting like it was possessed by the devil himself. The fucking thing was burning up. Arcs coming everywhere. They didn't know how to read that properly. They've never seen a score that high. There's got to be something else influencing this. Well, yeah. Now you ask. Like, these people in the truth verification squad must be like, that's got to be the shit job around at the RCMP, I would expect. There's no possible way that you would ever want to rely on that to that over your own intuition as an investigator or detective. Most of them probably agree, but within the framework of them having to do, what do they call it? The PEACE model, I believe. PEACE, the PEACE model, the PEACE framework of investigative techniques, which the RCMP employ. That's what you bring in the polygraph for. You get somebody else away from you, the normal person that you talk to come in and ask them all the hard questions just as protocol to help rule you out. It doesn't matter what the thing, we weren't going to base anything off of it. It's just a step earlier on to see what happens. A little something that they can talk about in the media this way or that. And it always is such a divide because it's not admissible in a court of law. There's so many things that can affect it, like did with Janie, but they still put her through the test. You see, the results of the test weren't to tell you if they're guilty or not. We already know that they're hiding guilty knowledge. So in an investigation like that, if something, it's an opportunity to catch somebody who isn't as prepared as these fuckers. No, I don't know where you're getting that there, Dylan Thomas. I don't know. You're playing tricks on yourself. I think your mind's playing tricks on yourself in that sense. If you're talking about, no. They still went ahead with the test. She must have been reliable on the first couple questions for them to complete it. No, you're not going to interrupt the test. There's a certain way that you have to give the test. Then you determine afterwards whether or not you're going to consider this. You're trying to establish a baseline on it is your primary goal in the early on phases of any polygraph examination. So I don't think so. I just think there's probably something more to it from an investigative standpoint, because it's not like they're exactly married to the idea itself. How could they be? It's just a tool. It's just frustrating from an outsider's perspective because it gets a lot of time in people talking about it. Fuck the polygraph. We don't need that damn thing. We know they're guilty. So do you, Wolfie. What are you saying there? Hold on, I'm way behind. You guys are hearing crying, Infamously Kim? Daniel was crying at this point in time? He's putting on a show. He's just getting more confident in his bullshit narrative because he's learned what he has to say in front of the cameras. It's getting better. those 4 questions aren't the determining factor in anything. It's just who cares? It tells you what they were suspicious of early on, and you take it from there. They don't use a magic 8-ball for crying out loud and say, "Oh, okay. Well, we were just wondering." Although from an outsider's perspective in your assumptions, you might think that, but that would be wrong of us. Yeah, they stop it right away if you're unreliable in the baseline. I don't know that that's true. Maybe. Oh, fantastic. You did such a fantastic job. Oh, Jenny, you're just so fantastic. I wonder who she was referring to. It must have been Callie. It must have been Callie she was referring to, of all the stupid people in there. She had a temper tantrum and left a post. Logan said she was taking off too. I'm not sure if they actually left that group or not, but those messages were classic. Not that I was encouraging it. We're having too much fun getting all of these statements out of them to further analyze. They get they're highly sensitive, and that's when you question them beyond the things that they stated in this circumstance. Now, what does that tell you? Hey, who took the last cookie out of the cookie jar, my friends? I don't know. Come on. They're really, really... Well, I'm not going to say that, Miss V. Darlene, yeah, they never changed for me, but... You go hear the clip from Daphne? It's a video, actually. Maybe we'll hear it. Probably hear it right here. Daniel crying.
We learned through our reporting that Nova Scotia's Child Protection Office had been contacted by the kids' school out of concern about the way they were showing up at school. We don't know the specific details of what the concern was that prompted that call, but we do know that that caused a child protection worker to go to the children's house and interview their parents, and this was in the months before their disappearance.
I was looking through the Facebook page of the children's school to understand what their school life was like. I was really just curious about the types of things they did at school and, what their lives were like there. And I came across a photo of Jack with a black eye. And so that photo was dated December 13th, 2024. It was 5 months before he and Lily disappeared. I asked Daniel how Jack received the black eye in December, and he didn't respond. But in private Facebook messages that were shared with me, he acknowledged that Jack had many black eyes. He said Lily even had a black eye when Jack and Lily disappeared from an incident that happened on May 1st, the day before the children went missing. He said a Tonka truck that she pushed down on swung up and hit her in the face.
That could be Darlene.
We know that Scott Armstrong, Nova Scotia's minister responsible.
It's not so much whether or not it's true and all of the information that you're bringing. It's of no consequence. The point is the fact that therefore you're bringing in and introducing, and therefore she must be reliable and she must be somehow telling the truth, if up to a point, was how it was reading in that sense. And that's what I'm saying I have a problem with, not whether or not who's liable in that sense. That's my point. That's all I was saying. Could be.
for Child Welfare has looked into this case. He will not discuss the specifics of it, but he says he's cooperating with the police, and if there will be a time when we can question how the system responded, he will discuss that publicly. But he said for now he wants to focus on getting a resolution and finding these kids. But there's a lot of questions about how the system may or may not have missed warning signs around the home life of these children. And we do know Nova Scotia is one of the few provinces in Canada that does not have a child and youth advocate, and that is a specialized position that can look at how a child...
Oh, shit. I don't like where that answer was going.
welfare system acts and where it fails and where it has flaws. And there's a lot of folks who are saying maybe this is time that Nova Scotia get one and improve the way that it handles child welfare. And that's the shame of the story, is that there were people who were concerned about what they saw, who tried to do something about it. And while it's unclear how the system responded, we know that child protection officer went to the house and talked to the parents. So the system in some ways did try to act as it should, but this is happening in an environment where the child protection system in Nova Scotia appears to be very broken. So there's a lot of questions that still need to be answered about what exactly happened after that visit to the kids' home.
So if it's an initial visit for them, they're going to come by and bring up whatever issue that was brought to their attention. The fact that they came to their home, they didn't phone call or anything, is interesting. But no matter what, that person, the caseworker that came to your door, isn't the supervisor that makes the next step into say, okay, we need to open an investigation in that sense. It's seen from a third party. And you would think that, I don't know, that's kind of how it usually goes, I would think. You'd think that there may be something lost in translation there, because if it takes a supervisor, and I mean, there's pictures, there's obvious things, but there's still something going to be lost in translation. Like what would have necessitated them to have opened up an investigation? Like, what exactly does it take in a circumstance like there is with Jack and Lily for them to open an investigation rather than just ignore it?
Before they disappeared.
Well, 4.5 months later, after Jack and Lily disappeared, the country is baffled, and frankly, the online community is obsessed with what happened to Jack and Lily.
See, the fact that she's using baffled is really giving a bit too much. This is where they get out of hand, in my opinion. Right? I mean, I understand that you have to dress it up a little bit to put it on mainstream media, but listen, it's not baffling. There's no way that they should be saying what's baffling is that the RCMP haven't already solved this shit show. The fact that they put all this time into making it look like, oh boy, so many questions out there, reeks of it happening a certain way. Really feeding into a mystery, and we all know that there's no such thing as a mystery. There's real answers behind all of this. People are obsessed, of course, because there's two children that are missing and presumed dead. There's no way that they could possibly be alive, and nobody in their lives, and the last people to see them alive, are able to tell the truth or talk in any great detail about this scenario. So what the fuck is the mystery, I wonder? Mystery is how the RCMP are going to get these sons of bitches to talk, probably. They tried the bottle of booze, they said. Oh, I cannot be bribed. You cannot bribe me.
There are so many conspiracy theories. There are a lot of theories as well based on some of
There's so many conspiracy theories and theories. Well, what differentiates the two? To her, I wonder. Rather than what it is that you're talking about, just factual information, of course. Yeah, and you don't get anything out of all of that factual information? Give me a... This is the fucking... This is why I hate this. God damn, this is painful to listen to. God. It's just such a mystery. These two children vanished. It's just such a mystery. To who? To who? Like, what is this? Who's this? Who wrote this? A 20-year-old?
the facts, some of the interviews that have been out there. And all of it has just led to this voracious demand in the face of what really is a vacuum of information from police in the case. All of a sudden, there's more vehicles coming through the area. A
vacuum of information. Do you notice that she really didn't say anything in these statements? What next time, honey? Why don't you keep that perspective to yourself? You may as well just read us the Major League Baseball scores from last night.
Area, people slowing down in front of homes, taking photos, sending up drones. You know, for the people in the community, it's become unnerving in other ways. Daniel's father, Earl Martell, for instance, has been followed and...
She didn't even get Earl's name right. It's Earl Martell, not Markel. Do you think this broad even follows the story? Earl Martell. Learn it. That's Earl. That's Earl Tint's friend. Why don't you be a man? Put that camera down. What does the camera have to do with him being a man? He should have cold cocked you with that camera with the record button on. Smack. Then we could all witness that big bruise on the side of your head, Earl. I don't condone violence at any one time. No, accidentally, I mean. Like the Tonka truck. The Tonka truck level accident. Yeah, you listen to Daniel Lorelyn. He's really tripping over his words. Tears of regret. They probably got him when he was all fucked up. Who are you talking about, Darlene? Who's no, we're not competing with the officers. We're working with everyone to try to find them. Who are you talking about, Darlene Thomas? Who's we? It sounds like one of your sock accounts. This is Janie's sock account. Heck yeah, people want answers. Maybe Darlene's part of the truth verification squad. Donna, no mystery RCMP should have made Daniel speak about the black eye Lily got on the first. Yeah, but it's not the RCMP's job to enforce these social things. Like, what are they going to make them? You would think that I know what you're saying. Like in an investigative setting, in an interview setting. I get what you're saying. Sorry. I'm not going to make him come out and speak about certain things a certain way. People they're in a situation, you get them confused sometimes because, you know, they fall for the bait. Like, because Daniel engages you with conversation, it's to propagandize you in a certain way, which may not be an indicator of deception. It works both ways in that sense, but know why you're in there in the first place, and the fact that you're probably being misled. at any one time in that sense. And people get, caught up in that little game. Refuse to. Are the local community suspicious of Daniel and Janie? That'd be a good question. Not Durwood, though. He's not suspicious at all. Someone said that Daleen is Belinda's lawyer. Really? I find that hard to believe. Maybe I'll have Belinda verify that. Okay. Well, why is everybody thanking you for being here? I am her lawyer. Okay. Darlene, okay. All right, well, it's a pleasure to have you here if you're being truthful. I'm glad I just split hairs with you. I split hairs with a lawyer. Probably not my finest hour. She's in most of these chats. Of course she's Christian. She listens to us all the time. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Daniel style, Daleen. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt like we think the RCMP gives Daniel the benefit of the doubt. Okay, Christian. You guys already know her. I trust you guys more than then. If you guys are okay with it, then I'll be okay with it. That's fine. I'm glad we've got that. We've got past that. So I'll take your statement a little bit more non-trolly then, Daleen. Hey, AB. You wonder if the new search with the cadaver dogs has affected Daniel's upcoming vacation to Cuba? Depends how careful he was to cover his tracks. This is going to be, if he's starting to cry now and act a little different, I can't wait to hear this. If he's doing it now, I'll be able to tell. I like to think I could, but in reality, that's what we were telling them to do in the first place. Daniel will want to hover over everything. There's a big conversation over some of the things that they gave up through the statements and things that they've been suspected of leaking in that sense. I'm not sold. I'm just hoping that they pick up something on the car and that blue Subaru Impreza. Is that Justin's or is that Daniel's old car? Maybe they had twins. Broken Goth Doll. There's actually all kinds of lawyers in different genres, especially the First Amendment genre, the 1A cop watch communities. There's lots of lawyers because a lot of these creators get themselves in situations that, and there's a lawyer community. There's a law community. To answer your question, there's a legal community. There's all kinds of people who have questions. Once you watch them, I'm just trying to think. I can't think of any off the top of my head now. Some of them cross over with the true crime community, and even Vinnie Politan's a lawyer. Merb 31st. Shout out Merb. He's a lawyer. There's another lawyer that we know. Oh. With the 1A community. She says, if the kids got out of the fence, how could that happen without me knowing? MCM, well, that's a circular statement, MCM. That's craziness. That's not really an answer or a statement or anything, is it? That's something meant to fill your mind, to divert away from the actual information that she holds. There really is no good reason at the end of the day, is there? But she wants to offer that up as her reason in the form of a question, getting you to answer the question on her behalf. See what she did there? She just spun it back on you to answer for her when she was supposed to be her answering some sort of question. And her answer was a question that put it back onto you. Do you see what she did there? She does that all the time. She does that with about 3 different places in her little story there. And by the way, there, gal from the Globe and Mail, she says, "Oh, they all came forward with the same story. They all came forward and recited the exact same rehearsed narrative from the exact same perspective, making it a red flag, not a scenario that allows investigators to say, "Oh my God, oh, we believe you." No, honey, they can't all be. There's so many. They can't all be telling it from the exact same perspective. They all, for example, say that they looked at the other person and said, "Do you hear the kids?" And then there's the discrepancy in the driveway between Daniel's story and Janie's story as to who told her that the kids had been missing for 20 minutes. Now, it's funny, by the way, that you would even bring that up, that the kids were missing, and had that in your mind at that time when you were trying to find your children. Shouldn't they just be just around here? So it's all stinks to high heaven in this circumstance. These are blatantly obvious things that would stand out to the reader just based upon the circumstance without anybody narrating in this sense. So I'm a bit poo-pooish about this particular article. I have to say something nice about it so they don't get too mad that I'm playing it.
Video.
Well, your voice is nice. Your voice is very nice.
Had an altercation, a verbal altercation with an online creator. This same online creator showed up at the home of Malaya's mother, pretending to buy a horse trailer that was advertised online, and surreptitiously
Oh, shout out to Tint. Shout out to Tint. Oh, heaven's sakes. These guys did some actual boots on the ground journalism, stuck a microphone hidden, and got some information. Then he said he's sorry. He made a whole movie about how he was sorry for doing that. But listen, we're past that now. So unethical about this. This is the point. So that they could signal to all of you the difference between how much of a fake. Look, do you remember what they did to you during the lockdown? Everybody? Anybody? Right. Come on. You're going to buy this crap? Listen, he did some good old-fashioned journalism that you should be envious of, honey baby. But you got to take a moment just to shout down these people who go about finding answers out themselves with other people associated with the family amongst so many mysteries. Now, how dare they do such a thing? How dare you all ask questions and think critically to yourself? We didn't ask you to think. We didn't ask you to go about this. You didn't get your information from us, the Globe and Mail, or the CBC, or Fox. How could it possibly be true? Yeah, way to go, Tint. Good shout out on that.
Recorded a lengthy conversation with Wade Paris, who is Malaya's mother's partner.
But now they talk down to him, but then go ahead and talk about all of the information that was shared during that interview. It's kind of like being on Justin's channel. They diss talk you. They diss talk Tint and how they came about the information, then turn around and it's like, anyway, during this interview, it was said that, so blah, 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 blah. So they go ahead and they go ahead and use it for their own, what would you call that? That's Fifth Estate. What would you call that? That's actually unethical, madam. That's an unethical. How dare Tint do that?
About the case, and then posted that online on TikTok and like
and YouTube.
It's totally different from the rules that we subscribe to, that we adhere to as journalists.
Yeah, the popularity contest at your liberal fucking college. Oh, do as we say. Yeah, heaven forbid you actually go out and ask the real questions. That's what makes it so unpopular nowadays, and vlogging such a thing. Oh, it's so crazy. Oh, yeah, I'm an actual journalist. Only because that's what they call you at your work, honey.
And that became fodder for many YouTubers who have dedicated their shows, their crime shows, to solely focusing on Lily and Jack.
That's kind of us. Thanks for the shout out. Because it's worth talking about, honey. It's worth talking about. Oh. Oh.
So people are very cagey of the media and outsiders driving around looking at, the so-called crime scene, or, the scene of where the children went.
The so-called crime scene? Well, what do you mean? What do you mean crime scene? See what she's doing here?
Missing and
stop harassing Daleen in my chat with legal issues too associated to the Jack and Lily case. She knows what to do. I'd be interested to know exactly what their steps are, but I don't expect them to divulge that in a public arena necessarily. What did you ask her? Now I'm curious. Don't be asking her anything, but what did you ask her? I'm curious. Disclaimer, don't ask her anything. Stop distracting from my show. Julia Hayden, and is it for temporary emergency custody or permanent if you can't answer? Come on now. Don't be asking her to start any rumors up in my chat, Julia. Don't be. That's starting rumors. Obviously, it's in an emergency situation. We've got a situation here. We've been iced out. She should present her story in the way that Belinda feels best. Next time, you should ask something more interesting. Like when the civil suit is going to start. You like my Logan impression, AB, Wolfie? Oh my God. Guys. My Logan. I got a picture of Logan back here that I was working on. God, this article pisses me off already.
It's created a lot of suspicion in the area.
It jeopardizes the investigation, right?
People have already made up their minds.
Yeah, I know.
What is...
It jeopardized the investigation. Hey, listen, asshole. Listen, dummy. I hate to state the obvious, but there's no need to be all silent from the perspective of the victim. You don't even want to share anything when it comes to things that could have possibly helped Jack and Lily be found in that scenario. You were too busy sidetracking and diverting attention to other arenas like a possible stranger abduction without linguistically committing to it at any one point in time. You never came out and actually said it. That everybody else should just do all of this for you because no particular reason. After you tell the RCMP that the kids were just there 20 minutes ago. As Janie's raking the driveway. What do you mean, what's a civil suit? What do you mean, what's a civil suit? Have the lawyer describe it to you. I'm still putting this on Malayaia and friends. Unsuggestible. Unsuggestible. She probably would have reunited with the kids, but CPS put a wrench in that plan. With the texting app, could be talking to the kids every day. I think you're smoking crack, bro. To be honest with you. So hold on. Hold on there. Unsuggestible. I'll put you on a 24-hour timeout. Just because I think you're probably one of the people that Janie was mentioning as being stupid. Come in here talking like that. That's garbage talk. Out of here.
What's that like?
Well,
Living in
I
this
get
community?
messages every day. People still call me child killer. You killed the children. Where are the bodies?
Alert. Retard alert, class!
I'm sure he's getting all kinds of calls.
Yeah, I get that every day. I can show you guys, and it's absolutely disturbing what people say.
People are sending you Facebook messages?
Yeah,
Oh, just so disturbing. Can you believe it?
constantly.
I'm sorry, Daniel.
Constantly. I just ignore them.
I'm so sorry, Daniel.
What do you want those people to know? Those folks who are reaching out to you? Are these strangers? Are these people that know you?
No, they're all strangers from all over the world. It's
Really?
worldwide, yeah.
And just sending you a message on Facebook
Yeah.
saying,
Yeah, because I always keep my message.
Nobody says you have to answer any of the messages. People from all over the world flooding you with messages telling you what really happened to Jack and Lily in that circumstance. Mm-hmm.
Messages open so anyone
Yeah.
can message me. That's why it takes me so long to get back to everybody, because I have hundreds and hundreds of messages.
And it's complicated for things for us, right? Trying to do actual reporting on the ground. Some of the folks in this community, they don't see a big difference between a YouTuber in the UK or the US and someone reporting for a Canadian newspaper. And so there is a trust that we have to build up with some of these folks because, in their view, YouTubers and people who are,
Oh, look at them. Look at them wanting to build rapport with the suspects in this circumstance. Oh, yeah, those just evil people out there. Somebody sent me a nasty message. You didn't have to look at it. You didn't have to answer it. You can turn your notifications off. There's all kinds of ways of filtering all of that out at any one time. And it's like, oh, my God. It's like putting your hand in the hot water all the time.
trying to get clicks for their true crime podcast, who are less concerned about getting it right and are more concerned about just drawing traffic.
So rhetorical. Not even close to being the truth in this circumstance. They're not even interested in this scenario with Jack and Lily. They're more interested up here than in painting all of these non-examples, this fictitious zeitgeist out there to be some sort of evil entity in this situation, bringing negativity. Quite the opposite. Quite the opposite. You couldn't be any more wrong about any of that. Where is he talking? In this circumstance, in this particular case, it hasn't been so. Not at all. I don't, it's, can you really blame anybody? You have to blame him for accepting all of these, to put himself in a situation where he's going to receive a lot of hate on Facebook. Hiding in plain sight in the circumstance. The journalists are, these particular journalists are going to placate to them. They're going to, and when you're in the circumstance, they're going to, for the sake of continuing the conversation, not be very difficult on the people that blame should be so obviously put. That's not journalism. That's doing what it is that they're blaming other people for doing. They're doing what it is they're blaming all of the YouTubers in this circumstance. And that, in my mind, takes away from the transparency, therefore the trustability factor when it comes to any of the information from these propagandists.
We have to convince the folks who are talking to us that we're doing things differently, that this is actual journalism, and getting it right is important.
Oh, guys, we're doing actual journalism? Could you fucking believe this?
To us.
We'll be right back.
With the help of Google AI, Access Now is mapping Canada's accessible places, empowering the disabled community to explore with confidence. Innovation is Canada's story. Let's tell it together. Find out more at g.co.
We had a pretty good relationship up until that point. That after the separation of Malayaia and my son, it was not a good separation. That my son distanced himself from the children. We didn't have to agree with that. It was his decision to make. But Malayaia knew that this will always be a second home for that. They were our grandkids, so she was more than welcome here whenever she wanted to come by.
What do you remember about the kids? Like, how do we describe them to people who never met them?
They're lively little ones that Lily is full of life. She's into everything. She's into everything, and she's really girly. But yeah, she used to, whenever she come to visit, she got so used to seeing me in my hats and wearing glasses, so I had to take an old pair of glasses and break the lens out of them so that she could wear them around the house. She liked dolls, she liked stuffed animals, and she just had this prim and proper way of almost like she was posing all the time. But she always reminded me of a little girl that lived in her own dream world. She'd play with her toys and she's chattering away to herself. Now, Jack didn't overly talk a whole lot. He was a very quiet little boy.
Okay.
He was a very quiet, shy little boy, very reserved, at least up until that age, very reserved. But he quietly played with the toys, and he liked the stuffed animals. He played with them, and he loved the toy horse I had there for them.
How did you hear that they had gone missing?
We were in Halifax when we got the news. The mother of another grandchild I have, I guess she's seen it on social media. So right away, she sent a message. It was quite a shocker. I don't think you can make anybody understand.
What struck me about Belinda is that she understood and described a change in Malayaia that she noticed over the last few years.
Do you remember Janie's answer when she tried to talk about the change in Malayaia in that sense? First of all, how would you know that there is a change? But in comparison between Belinda and Malayaia, they're from different time periods, because Janie would have been knowing her after she was iced out in Cody.
I thought her gift was being a mom. That I really thought that was her God-given gift, that she seemed to just breeze through it. She was actually everything a grandmother could want for a mom.
Really?
Okay.
She was an excellent mom. An excellent mom. She didn't raise her voice. She had more patience than I had as a mom.
Wow. And so, what do you think happened?
Things started to change when she met Daniel.
Okay.
That she had told us about meeting him.
I met this new guy. He's so dreamy. This is the Daniel she first met, which was, at that time, abusing drugs admittedly as well. It's funny when you hear Daniel talk all about how he's going to, Narcotics Anonymous 3 times a week at this point in time, that it doesn't all of a sudden have anything to do with how Jack and Lily were living or contributed to the fact that they're no longer there or presumably even alive at this point. So it's a sensitivity area for Daniel.
And that she did believe it was going somewhere, so I was happy for her. And I told her, well, as long as he makes her happy, because
going somewhere. They went straight into Janie's trailer. So when that first happened, the time period, Janie probably wasn't thinking about living in that RV in the backyard. You know, that was a bit of an afterthought, an addendum to the living situation. Admittedly, again, by Janie, because she couldn't take the pace of the household. It was too much for her and her dog. So they renovated this old RV and moved into it. I got thinking this morning, of all times, like this. It's not like it's just a big, come to the Lord moment by any means, but in light of all that we've heard from Janie talk about how detached she is from the goings on at the house, she was reliant on being on the inside of the house for probably not just her dinner, her food storage, as well as her bathing in self-care. Like, so she, like, in other words, she has to go in there to brush her teeth and shower up and maybe pull a steak out of the freezer for dinner to defrost to put in her hot plate in the RV, or just cook it inside, or be a part of the family in that circumstance. So it's not, no matter what way you look at it, it's not an ideal situation. The first things to go in those old RVs are all of the equipment like that. And it doesn't look as though it's maintained in that sense. When she says renovated, she probably ripped all of that out and put a big bed in there in her wood stove and said, I've lost everything and it's Earl's fault. So there's no way that you could be in a living situation and not interact all of the time. So again, I'm just bringing it up because it is an area of sensitivity for Janie, but she goes so far beyond just denying and not talking about something. She actively spins a tale of bullshit that couldn't, or you wouldn't think would have otherwise matter if it wasn't an attempt to try to embellish her narrative and tale. Just more hype that she brings. Bullshit.
kids are happy if mom's happy.
Yeah.
And we kept in communication that the kids' birthdays and Christmas, that she was staying with her grandmother at that time in Truro.
Yeah.
So we would go there to drop off the kids' birthday gifts or Christmas gifts and visit with them. Then we noticed that it started to change a bit.
And what kind of change did you notice in her?
She started to get distance. That the last visit she had them here, that was in the summer before Jack's birthday, so that probably would have been around July or August.
Mm-hmm.
She did make the comment that it bothered Daniel coming to visit us. That he assumed that she was coming so she could run into Cody. And I thought, well, I mean, they're only young, so we made it clear that, look, if he's got a problem, bring him too.
Do you think that the reason why you haven't seen them in the last 2 years is because of that?
I do feel it's because of him. I do. I mean, she was...
So right there, there's an indicator that there's a control issue earlier on. I wonder what this early relationship of Daniel's and Malaya's looked like. because Daniel was in a situation and left that to be with Malayaia. Do I understand that correctly? Does anybody else know that? Are you under the same assumption? It's okay to be under an assumption for the sake of the show. Oh, there's clicks and views. It's an assumption. But the point is they're probably fairly or developed into being codependent to a degree in that sense. Yeah, control issue to you, Queez. Yeah, for sure. Or potential. And, there's all kinds of other indicators as well thus far, but that's worth noting. Like, Belinda mentioned it in passing.
Coming all the time up until she got with him.
And then when she drove to the home the day after the...
So there's two women in Daniel's life, in Jack and Lily's life, that Daniel did really all he could to stomp them out of Jack and Lily's life. So he prioritizing his relationship with Malayaia and establishing his dominance over Malaya's situation. Why would he do that? It seems to be a pattern of chaos in his life, and Mike's right. Chaotic Daniel. There seems to be a pattern of chaos in his life that there's really no answer for it. It's no logical reason for it, perhaps. It just goes along with him not caring or him not wanting to participate or do what's expected as him as a father in that circumstance. Like he's preoccupied in doing other things. What that is, I don't know. Anything. Like, why would you stomp out Cindy Murray and Grandma Belinda out of Jack and Lily's life? Like, here are two lifelines that could have taken Jack and Lily for a weekend and given you guys a break all the time, and you want to just burn bridges with them. You want to ice them out of the kid's life because you think and you're making decisions on behalf of them. That's a decision for you as opposed to a decision for Jack and Lily in that sense. You've got to compromise as a responsible adult going into that situation, knowing that they're part of Malaya's package in a perfect world. So there's obviously some issue in there, and the issue sounds like it's with Daniel. What that is, you guys can theorize away and do all of that crazy shit all up in my chat and let me know what you think, or in my comment section below. Never feel bad about that, because we're talking about the right things in these circumstances. The right questions based upon the information that we're given by the people that it's most important, knowing full well, and adding to the difficulty level of it is that you're dealing with liars who you don't expect to get the truth from. Celia Triolo brings up a point which is relevant. She says, I'm not sure they made it home after the shopping trip. You and many other people question that, and you still have a right to, technically. But I'll finish my answer in a second. Goes on to say, we are only going on their words. Good point, always. They were there that morning. Question marks. Well, this is where it's left for us out there who aren't attached to the investigation. The best that we can figure is through their statements, sometime between 10 and 11 is the prime sensitivity area that they don't want to talk about. They avoid talking at all costs. They want to discourage you from even bringing up the question about what had happened the night before, as saying nothing happened. I told you, and immediately go to their fabricated script they gave the RCMP as though one thing had to do with the other, as though the question just needed to be totally disregarded. No, it's a completely relevant question. So the hours between 10 and 11, or even 12, or let's even go 9 and midnight, if that's easier for your minds. We figure that something happened to Jack and Lily. And then at, the report from 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. with the reports of that 5-speed leaving 6 times between those hours the night before. Daniel, it's another sensitivity area, of course. And the Daniel's answers aren't anywhere close to even being on point or even have anything to do with really the accusation at hand. It's just an utter denial, and they call it a drug party, and the neighbor said it because he wanted to get the heat off of himself, with really never really giving you any more context as to why or reason behind that other than it's just an answer for you in real time. So I believe that report from the neighbor, by the way. And I also believe Malaya's friend Haley. The more I get to know about this case in hand, the more that I personally feel sympathetic towards Malaya, although she's not free of all blame in this scenario by any means. But I've developed to be more sympathetic in this circumstance, knowing about how ill-prepared she was going into this relationship with Daniel and what occurred at that house and the probabilities. I'm mad at Malaya right now, but I'm not I separate her at this point between, I look at her more as a partial victim in all of this, and we're looking at a situation that came about because of the other people, and because of that it affects more than one person there, so therefore they had to come up with the story to protect everybody. If one person was going to take the blame, they're all going to go down. Otherwise, they better say this situation. And I think the RCMP believe that as well. But just because we recognize that, and I'm going to generalize a little bit, and I'm going to put us in a theoretical state of mind, to open your mind to conceptualizing here. It's a lot easier said than done to then prove all of these things. They have to go about the investigation in a different way. They have no other choice, because you don't expect the people that you were hoping had all of the information to continue to lie to you and mislead you in that sense. There's only so much of that you're going to be able to take. You're going to have to go about things in a different way, no matter what. And that's what Daniel's betting on. That's what the guilty parties are betting on in this sense. And timing out that resource thing, because they're not going to be able to throw all the kinds of money at it forever. And the best thing that he has going for him at this time, like it or not, no matter what these individuals lead you to believe through these articles, the best thing that Daniel has is Janie in this circumstance as his alibi, and even Malaya, the person that we can see has coercive control over Malaya. Not to mention self-preservation for Malaya, because she knows that she's culpable at some level in all of this, like it or not. That's your ultimate fear to everybody. What do you think the fear of this whole situation has been since day one? The fact that they're going to get, in trouble, legal trouble, criminal trouble from the disappearance of Jack and Lily. That hasn't even, funny enough, been focused on enough. That's what they're afraid of. Now, why would they be afraid of that in this circumstance if they didn't have something to be afraid of? Hence that guilty knowledge. There's that guilty knowledge again. We recognize it, we see it. Just because we see it, recognize it, doesn't mean we can prove it. That doesn't mean it's not worth talking about. It's not our jobs to be proving it out here. We're talking about the scenario. Talking about the obvious. There's a whole part to this that we don't know. That's influencing the investigation more so because Malayaia is associated to the case, and Jack and Lily, the victims here, through blood, like Belinda is. Now, Malaya's blocked Belinda out for whatever reason. You would have to think it's to avoid any sort of scrutiny, judgment, culpability in this circumstance, which, believe me, you can understand if you're an introvert. You don't like to be in the spotlight at all. You don't want to answer questions at all. But what it really does is reinforces to the public that there's more to the story here, as though it's not a scenario in which the good people of the public were led to believe in, thinking that the kids walked off into the bush. Now, whose fault is that? Daniel and Malaya's. Now, we're not coming at you, judging you based upon that false report. We're wondering where Jack and Lily are. Therefore, what really happened? And you still are in a position of having all of the information that the people want. But the people realize that, you have that the boy who cried wolf scenario. How could they possibly trust what you have to say at this point in time? And how can you prove it? And why are you lying in a circumstance like this? The question as to why are you lying in a circumstance such as Jack and Lily going missing should, you would think, give you enough to hold a person until you find something else on them through further questioning in a perfect world. Maybe that's me romanticizing it. Brian Sutherland says he will F up yet. Yeah, you think so? One mission? What's going on? What's going on? Well, Malayaia has to do the right thing. Malayaia has to do the right thing on behalf of Jack and Lily and for Meadow. The problem is that Malayaia isn't known for doing the right thing with anything in the circumstances under the protection of Cindy Marie, which I don't know if is a good or bad thing. I would think in this circumstance, in comparison to how she was living under the thumb of Janie and Daniel, it's a better alternative. Now, how is it that Daniel and Janie can sit there in a situation where there's lies and deceit, and they're still to this day trying to throw suspicion and blame over on Malayaia? You can read into these all as much as you want. It's relevant. Why? Why do you have the need to? It's not something that I expect an answer, nor do I really want Daniel to answer that. He doesn't need to answer that for us. We know the answers to the questions we're asking. The RCMP need to know the answers that they're going to be asking as well. Right, Osprey Ruggs. Listen, that's, like it or not, a factor in Jack and Lily's life. And it is. There's no ignoring it. Not at all. Like, Daniel, just because you're going through the motions because of CAS and Children's Aid now and putting it, making it a stipulation that you have to got to take these or do something to show that you're going, that you're able to even go see your supervised. But he doesn't want to talk about how it affected the lives of Jack and Lily for the past 2 years that they lived in the trailer. What are you saying, Darlene, that the Martells got a corner on the market, on the math market in Pictou County? All 17 people? All 17. That's just enough. That's good enough. Well, thank God it's addictive. Return customers. Barrett Larson, I'm sorry, but isn't it a little too late with the scent dogs? They're cadaver dogs. No, they're bringing cadaver dogs before the snow comes, and it makes it even more difficult. It would be part of the greater search that they started. Trying to rule it out, make it look like they're doing something in this sense. But they have a list of places that they would like to search. We can hope for the best, but don't expect much. And don't expect them to tell us necessarily everything that they see or find. We need Tin out there to go and do some of his flavor of journalism. Get that drone up there and get us some sky shots of where they're searching. Don't forget the fake tears. Yeah, the case upsets you as well. Don't let it upset you too much. Don't let it direct your emotions. You got to keep steady. They could give Malayaia or Janie partial immunity to get Daniel, since the kids never were bruised before her and Daniel got together. Donna, that's a good point. Thank you for mentioning that, by the way. Thank you for reminding them. However, slight alteration there. Janie is just that evil. We don't know. Maybe it's Daniel covering for Janie. It's hard to believe that, but I guess that's a possibility. Like, she's that questionable. She's made herself that questionable. But granted, it's not like she's hiding, because in her mind, she's came out and said to you that if Daniel was ever in a dire situation, that she would do anything and everything to protect him. And that would mean including lying and covering for him and carrying whatever he really essentially asked you to say as your story. Just say that you heard the kids that morning. And she really couldn't commit to actually really saying that with confidence. Okay, that's barely... I don't even, like... I guess as an officer, as a responding officer, you have to take the report in that sense. But I would be having a problem in that moment. I'd be like, oh, Jesus, we got an issue with this one. Thank God I could dish it off and have somebody else deal with it at the moment. I think that's... Celia, I don't think that they abandoned the children in the woods necessarily. Why do you say that? I think that that's a question with a dual entendre. Daniel got blinded by the D, the old bait and switch. Malayaia got blinded by the dick, Sandra? I don't know. Blinded by the D. Listen, I don't know. Maybe they just met on Tinder and they were trying to force like some new situation into being like better than the last situation that they were in. And pretty soon when you find out that your significant other is abusing a certain substance and you're in the middle of it, well, now what do you do? Really, that's the story that she's told Haley or the people at the end of the driveway. So I'll give her, for now, the benefit of the doubt. Even though that I'm pretty sure that she struggles with her own vicious cycle of addiction, in my opinion, or there's greater mental health issues here. And I'm not gonna put that on her. All the indicators would think that, she has a problem with some particular substance. And that's probably what made them feel so comfortable with one another. Christine, Daniel is a great catch. Did you see how beautiful his hair is? He's got really nice red hair. Just so handsome. I wouldn't think Daniel is a great catch. Christian, I seriously hope so. Or Justin is. Geez, you got shut down by AB, Celia? Oh, you did get shut down. I'm just thinking that... listen, the polygraph isn't something that's going to solve anything for you in this circumstance. I think that they, probably should have asked a lot different of questions, more closer to whatever they were trying to figure out rather than the broader, to try to keep their positions obscure. But maybe they've got a plan at hand. I don't know. It's a criminal absentee father. He was a Band-Aid. Daniel was Malaya's Band-Aid in that sense. So right away, it had to have been an issue. For 2 years, it would have had to have been an issue. The next thing you know, Malaia is pregnant with Meadow. But they call him, they like to refer to Daniel as the father because of the relationship with Meadow. And that they do share. He's the father of Meadow, but he's not the father of Jack and Lily. Don't want to mention that. You would put a wrong thought in the reader's minds, right? No, it should be worth noting. Daniel and Malaya shouldn't get, Donna St. Jean, they shouldn't get Meadow back because they just lost 2 children that were under their care. Well, they might be able to see them supervised for the next 18 years in provincial care in that sense. It would all depend. I think the situation at hand, the way that Children's Aid would look at it, is if the situation is in limbo and there's no real clear answer to anything, you have to err on the side of caution and take all possibilities into account and protect the children from that the best you can. And that includes Daniel being guilty AF, which he is. Right? We know he all is. We know he's how guilty he looks. Infamous Kim's saying, if you listen to the full video or audio that I got here, you get that nobody from Malaya's family wants to talk. Her biological dad and his mom did, though. Her bio dad, not Wade. The rest are not even a blip on the radar. Infamous Kim, who are you talking about exactly? Her bio dad and his mom. Her bio dad. That's her stepfather. You talking about Wade Paris? Yeah, that's Malaya's stepdad. Not even a part of it. He's probably being iced out by Cindy being protective of Malaya in this circumstance. It's just me thinking. I could be wrong. I'm open to it. Yeah, Daniel counted the ovulation for sure. Miss V, oh, that's so nasty. You think Daniel's capable of fooling the polygraph in any way? Polygraphs are junk. I just disregard it. It shouldn't make you think well, you can think whatever you want, but it shouldn't really affect the way that you perceive the situation at hand. Do that for Jack and Lily. I think Jack and Lily would want you to be completely suspicious until either their bodies are found or the reality of the situation is becoming less obscure. Yeah, Magpie. Well, these are cadaver dogs. So they'll be going in looking for decomposition, human decomp. One mission, sad part of it is if Daniel did something, he would only get 25 years, maybe 5 for all we know. Oh, it's a glass half full there, in my opinion. Listen, that would be a life sentence. there would be a life sentence involved. Maybe more. Maybe 2 counts of it. So if you, let's say if it's been brought up that, say, Jack got into something, let's say he got into, put something in his mouth and it ended up being fentanyl or carfentanil. And they didn't realize until his breathing had stopped and didn't know what to do. And Lily came upon the scene and started screaming, and a very high, uncontrollable, tweaked out Daniel snapped. So that would be 1 count of first-degree murder. Are you talking about Celia? You think that they just took them out and abandoned the kids in the middle of nowhere? I don't believe that. Maybe their bodies. If they went out and abandoned the kids in the middle of nowhere, they would have been found by now. All right, is that easy enough for you? But I agree with you, polygraphs are useless. Useless for you because it's not an easy button in whether they're guilty or not. It's a tool. Cadaver dogs, scent dogs are both awesome. They're not useless. But maybe in your mind they might be useless now because it's after the fact. That doesn't take away from them being able to detect human decomposition. Maybe they've got an ace up their sleeve. I don't know. Like I said, I think it's just part of the process and the procedure that they want to carry out to make sure that they can rule out what they had started. They already started a job, and depending on how well they think that they did or how well they were able to search, maybe they could come back in different spots, hot spots, places that like Janie's drain, Daniel's drain, kitchen sink. I don't want to tell them all the places to start cleaning. I wish they didn't announce it to the world and they just went ahead and did it. That would have been a lot better. The fact that they're out here making an announcement tells me that the RCMP are using the opportunity to make themselves look better. But again, you can't have it both ways. Or you have to tell the public that you're doing something, right? Celia's all put off. Sorry, AB. I'm sorry. Never mind. Well, what makes you think that they abandoned the children in the middle of nowhere? What led you into believing that? Was there anything that they said, statement-wise? You're on the right track. I'm not trying to shoot down theories, but there's some that just don't seem as credible to me as others. Because I'm too married to one or two ways that this probably went down at this point in time. That's why. But I'll accept your apology if it was genuine. Just kidding. Oh, shit. Are you talking about Donna? Where's one mission's statement? Oh, you're talking about Carla Homolka. Oh, she's been out forever. She's got kids and she's married again, for crying out loud. She's still getting doxxed in the local newspapers. All the newspapers love to dox her. Last I heard she was in Montreal. Hey, nasty Nathaniel. Yeah, Celia, you comment anytime you want. You're right. Like, I mean, you're only theorizing, but they get a clean crime scene that way. Well, Yeah, but yeah, we're essentially talking about and agreeing on the same thing. We kind of agree. Instead of just taking them away and abandoning them alive, I'm saying that it's more probable that something happened before that they had to go and abandon them in your mind. Like, right? You know what I'm saying? Like something would have happened to necessitate them taking them off site. And whatever that was to their detriment. So, like, and it's difficult the way that you're phrasing it. Like, I mean, yeah, you could consider abandoning the bodies, right? They're corpses in that sense, which would be another set of crimes that they'll be facing in that circumstance. But the way that you're putting it, like Celia, they just drove 2 kids away and just opened the door and said, yeah, make it on your own. They would have been found. Like there is a rampant search in that sense. The point to all of it is that their story that they gave people, no matter what at this point in time, doesn't hold weight. The only thing keeping that story together and them going with the fact and determining whether or not the kids were even there or not is Janie coming forth with her very, very poor, bad alibi, saying that, yeah, her dog heard the kids outside, and yeah, she's pretty sure she heard the kids, even though that she can't say the time. She's not sure if it was before or after her call with Bob, or whether or not it was before or after her nap. All of these fuzzy details, but yet she can recall different details at her convenience. All of these types of red flags that are sticking out, right? Which brings you back to think that, you know, you got to take it back to May 1st, the evening of May 1st, that Daniel avoids talking about, back to the hours between 9 and midnight, and really want to focus on something that, whatever happened at that point in time, forced them to start preparing for the worst. Yeah, let's hope that Earl, News Now Houston never gets out. Is there a danger of that happening? I don't think so. He's been needing to get behind bars for a long time. Yeah, they would have been found if they were out there. So they're probably out there, concealed somewhere. Or, many are theorizing, based off of statement analysis, that the ocean may have been used as a site of disposal. No matter what, we have to get to being comfortable to convince a 12-man jury that, yeah, that's probably the most probable thing that happened. One of the two. You don't necessarily need to have that those answers on how they came to meet there, and just the fact that there's enough evidence against Janie and Daniel. And probably going to need Malayaia for that. Yeah, the ocean is unpredictable, but who's to know? Who's to know at this point in time? I'm open to it. I'm open to it. It's not as important for me. I'm intrigued in trying to get those answers through identifying the leakage, just through the different statements. And the RCMP, that's probably the most that they'll tell you today, is that they're still, continuing to consider every single avenue when it comes to what had happened to Jack and Lily. That means all avenues, all encompassing. So don't even ask your question, because the answer is yes, we're considering that too. Just cover everything in that statement. That's easy. Off for the weekend, right? No one mission. No, it's a lot easier. We talked about that earlier on, about the no body prosecution in the circumstance. And here's a scenario. Listen, you can go and search, and you'll find several different cases that are along the same lines as this, that they've prosecuted successfully. And you look at Orrin Orson West. It's just, in a circumstance like this, I can't see it going very smoothly. Like, there's a lot of frustration involved when it comes to, and it comes from being such lovers of information. Like, we're spoiled in that sense. But you know why they can't share with everything that they know. But the problem is here in this case with Jack and Lily that they're saying that, meaning Malayaia and Daniel are saying that they can't talk because the police told them not to. Like, come on. Like, what more of an indicator do you need in a circumstance like this with their own children missing and they're hesitant to be talking at any point in time? There's no getting away from that red flag, friend. There's no there's no hiding behind that. That speaks volumes. In my opinion. If you're to look for the easiest red flag from an outside or a newbie perspective in that sense. Yeah, Victoria's Secret. Yeah, every part of the fact, you come to learn the more that we analyze and focus on Janie's statements, the more that you realize that she brings these things up not to provide any answers, but just for a reason to continue on and help establish a bullshit narrative. Like, she loves to, well, we'll point it out next time she does. She says, not to mention her hiding in the trailer when she heard Daniel screaming for the kids. I thought he was screaming at Jack because of the chickens. BS, you say. Well, yeah, exactly. You remember it so much. You remember the moment so much that you can recall what it is that you were thinking, right? Yet you can't remember if you heard the kids before or after your nap or what exact times. And she's come out and apologized for all the times that she's messed up and tried to spin it back around and make you feel bad for even questioning it, which is funny in that sense. So she's acknowledged the fact that there's major inconsistencies. And you know what? You can take that into consideration as an investigator. It neither makes her look any more suspicious nor makes her look any more innocent. You could take it as you need it. But in the grand scheme of things, it's her acknowledging that her initial story, again, is misleading. In that sense, it's inconsistent. You would think that in a circumstance like this, like your times, and it's not like it's just one slip of the tongue, like somebody misspoke during a statement, right? It's a consistent thing with Janie. And she's so eager to consume your mind with all of this nonsense, this extra information, extenuous information. Extenuating? Ooh, extra word score on that. Also, Janie said that when Daniel was calling for the children, she thought he was playing with bugs first. She said it was possibly Jack letting the chickens out, just adding to the pile of lies. Yeah, you think that those... Why would he be yelling in a tone that would be... So if you're yelling at a child for letting the chickens out, it's usually in a tone that might be, communicating frustration as opposed to celebrating a game-winning goal, for example. Right? I get what you're saying. Why would... That wouldn't have alerted her to get her business all up, like her eyes out? Yeah. I don't even think it happened, to be honest with you. Like this whole scenario with seeing the kids at the trailer, that particular moment has been a problem since the get-go. All right? Nobody wants to commit to actually talking about that in a way that's going to satisfy us. Okay? Because now they want it to, them hearing them outside is supposed to replace it for the kids actually, that's an answer for the kids actually being there, as opposed to they're just making up a vague detail in order to qualify as an alibi. Because they know that the cops want to know where the kids were last. And they want to tell them without letting them know that they were passed away, that they were still alive and well at that point in time. And that hinges on Janie saying that her dog heard the kids. She never saw them. And she's crying and showing all kinds of excessive emotion over that because, in fact, in my opinion, it's her covering in real time over a bullshit lie. She's convoluting it, right? She's overemphasizing on that point to distract away from the relevancy of our point, and not our point, but the relevancy of the truth in the scenario. Like a magpie playing injured. I'm not sure I heard it that way, Anne Warren. Her disdain she had for Jack's compassion for worms, keeping them from her chickens, says a lot. 4-year-old sweet compassion dashed by the old biatch. Yeah, she's not very sensitive. She's only sensitive when it comes to things that deal with her own feelings. Not Jack's or any Lily's or anybody else's. It doesn't really communicate with anybody that she had any pleasant experiences with the kids. Like, her time there was what she was doing. She was taking less and sacrificing more for the sake of Jack and Lily and Daniel. And I've got no doubt that she's telling the truth in that she feels that way, right? She really feels that way because, again, that goes back to the living situation when they first came in the picture. Now, maybe it was only 2 kids. It was Jack and Lily. They've got an extra bedroom for. There's Janie. There's Malayaia and Daniel in the 3rd bedroom in the trailer. Then things probably would have had to start changing when she became pregnant. Probably. So there's a dynamic there I really would like to know at some point in time. Maybe Wade and Cindy have the answer to all of that. And really, you would have to think that the protection of Malayaia in this is taken into consideration. But what I mean is the Murrays and Malaya's side of it are being overly protective and providing a place, of sanctity for Malayaia at this time. I mean, you can understand that. But again, no matter what happened, Malayaia and the Brooks Murray clan and their side of it have to, in my opinion, put the proper pressure and encourage Malayaia to turn on Janie and Daniel and bring Jack and Lily home in this sense, or do the right thing in this circumstance. Even if it means that you're going to be in trouble temporarily, something tells me that the situation isn't 100% Malaya's fault, although that at this point in time, you wouldn't be wrong in armchair quarterbacking saying that all of this could have been prevented. Of course it was, but it wasn't. It should have been in December. But we don't, this is just with the things that we know. We don't know all of the ins and outs. Not saying that it's going to make Malayaia any more non-incriminating. But at this point, we've got to work with what we have. And proper encouragement when it comes to Malayaia coming out and ousting Janie and Daniel and smashing that alibi all to hell and letting them know what really happened. It's going to give them the direction that they need, I feel. That's the easiest way, Malayaia. Come on. But the police have to have something. The police in this situation need to have something to make it in Malaya's best interest. That's the best way to do it. Hoping isn't going to get you very far in these circumstances. That might be a 1 in a million shot. You need something in order to encourage her to make a better decision. When it comes to capital murder, Malayaia, they would have no problem with relocating you in a witness relocation program in that circumstance at any point in time. Because there would be a danger out there. There's a, if what we suspect to be true is Daniel's still, available to drive and do anything that he wants at this point in time. He's got his freedom in this circumstance. So it's not to her benefit to be out here talking against him necessarily, knowing that he's responsible already for murdering two members of the family, one likely two. You remember that statement that he makes? He made earlier on through text messaging that she's not mentally capable of understanding what it is that she's about to do, insinuating that she's on the run with Meadow, avoiding her little prank that she's playing with the Jack and Lily Sullivan case here. These statements can't be ignored. In this statement that Malayaia made while she was there, that Janie even brought up about how the kids, like she was making it known that the kids were autistic, and that's based on the fact that they're missing now. Now, is she actually saying something else there? Why is she associating one thing with the other? Because she wants and she needs to put blame back onto the kids in this circumstance, anything to get the blame off her in the moment. It's just a reminder that she's probably more of in at least when maybe Malayaia panicked and called the RCMP when she starts to realize, what the hell is going on here, and like this cycle of coercion is circling back around, and Janie and Daniel and Logan are gaslighting the fuck out of them, tripping out, doing it this way and that. You're just going to call the RCMP to bring them in, and hopefully you're going to make your exit stage left somewhere in the confusion. Miss V, your sarcasm doesn't always come through.
Children went missing to help look for them. She was flabbergasted at the state of the home. Malayaia appeared totally different to her than she had previously. She wondered what happened in those 2 years.
I was blown away when I found out where they lived.
Why? What is it about that area?
Well, we passed a few times in the last couple of years. And I actually remember seeing the mobile home. And I remember thinking that, my God, they should at least clean the yard up a bit. I'm awful critical of things. It's
Well,
a
look
shame,
at
but
your
I am.
yard.
Well,
It's okay.
So Belinda's making note about the state, the disorganized system and state of the property. Janie doesn't have any problem letting us in to know how she really feels about Malayaia. That's so... And how could you not think that this disdain she shows towards Malayaia is, put onto the kids in that manner? Like, that's saying the kids were obviously a problem to her, but she's almost not holding them as accountable as she is holding her shitty mother, Malayaia, accountable. So that's what was always being held over her in that sense. And Janie was in a state, a person who's constantly reminding you about the sacrifice that she's making of having you guys here stay in the trailer, and she's out back in the trailer suffering, having to come in and schedule her showers now. Oh, can I come in and shower in my own trailer? The way that she talks about it, she's really telling us the things that she had an issue with. These are the things that compounded into a larger problem much down the line. The children in one, Daniel, Malayaia, and Meadow in the other, and the third, I believe, the one with the pink over the window. He used it for what he did, the stuff he had to get rid of. It's a possibility. What's interesting to me about this whole pink blanket, because obviously we don't know its relevance yet, is how differently Daniel represented. First, he didn't know anything about the blanket, and he said it didn't have anything to do. It wasn't his, didn't have any idea where it came from. The next thing you know, he's like, oh yeah, it's actually, it was in the garbage, and Janie helped put it in the bag because it was too overfilled. Next, it was on the back railing, and Haley said, you go back and you listen to Malaya's friend Haley mention, and I believe her, that it was on the railing. Now, the only railing that day would be at the back at the sliding door in that sense, wouldn't it? So she recognized that blanket from the railing, and then it was two parts. So it's a bit bizarre. Like, how it got there, I don't think that part's as important as, it not being just another thing that Daniel was inconsistent over, shedding even more suspicion on the possibility that could be planted there as a red herring, that somebody from the house is purposefully going a certain way, planting something that would stick out to searchers in a tree in order to get the search team to focus around that spot and away from other places where they stashed the body, and which we're highly suspicious of because, of course, they're lying about everything else. And when I say everything else, that's not just me generalizing it. That's really what we've come to. They've been inconsistent and omitted, and they're not very receptive, not to us, but to anybody, in really cooperating. It's very difficult to get a direct answer, and one that's not deflected and answered in a way that's not tangible, misunderstood by the person answering the question on purpose. You ever purposely misunderstand a question in order to divert? That's what's going on with these people. It could be argued as well, like Janie, all of these statements, they're clever enough to know about revealing things through leakage at the bare minimum. But it doesn't make them immune from falling victim or into it. So it's always worth analyzing the statements, even if it is a lie. It's an answer to, it's a statement nonetheless in that sense. In these circumstances, the blanket was on the kid's window in the morning of the 2nd. Was gone later on, Donna says. Is that true? Yeah. Was that it? Is that actually verifiable? The blanket was on the kids' window in the morning. So very well, Janie could be talking about putting the other part of the blanket in the garbage, as opposed to the one that was found out. You know, who really knows at this point in time? But what it does say is that there was actively something going on from stuff that used to be on the property to being off the property. Do you see what I'm saying? So it would lead you to believe that there was some sort of traffic occurring between the house and at least where they found that blanket. So if there was something leading you to believe that, then you could say just the same that there was a lot of traffic coming from the house going any which direction. You know, that would be the point of planting the blanket in the tree to throw off search parties in that sense. That would be one way of doing it. I'm not saying that that's the reason it's there. I'm just adding that, right? That's not necessarily what I believe. I don't know why it's there. Nor do I want to really provide you with some sort of answer as to why the hell it's there. It's not important in that sense at this point. Not for us. It would be nice to know. But it doesn't make Daniel look any less or any more innocent in that sense. Worse, if anything, because of how he handled it. So the argument would be to somebody trying to establish a baseline. Well, if this guy's this chaotic all the time, then is it naturally fooling your senses into accepting his chaotic nature in overlooking suspicious behavior and activity? And it shouldn't. Well, there's a reason for Daniel's behavior. Anytime that his things get a little hot, or he's got to really dig deep, and then it comes out and he doesn't want to reveal anymore, you know, he doesn't.
My philosophy has always been a person can be poor because I don't have money, that I am on the poor side of life. But you fix up what you got. You keep clean what you got. That's just been, so I had no idea. And I made a comment about the trailer twice when we had passed. So Saturday,
Janie was pissed about that.
Me and some of my family members took a trip out Saturday to do some searching. And then Monday we had the four-wheeler and we started doing the trails. And we took the trails all up through the pipelines and the power lines that we checked all the trails. And the ribbons were everywhere, that the searchers were all up through the area. The ribbons that you couldn't go within 4 feet without seeing ribbons throughout the woods everywhere. That I did know they were well searched. I still had hope that maybe they were lost in the woods. Then when we come back to the trailer and the cousin met me out in the yard, Daniel's cousin.
Okay.
She met me in the driveway and I asked where Malayaia was. And she told me Malayaia wasn't there. And that hit me like a ton of bricks.
What was it about that?
If she could leave, then to me she knew her kids weren't coming back. Because I know I couldn't leave. I wanted to sleep in my car there. So I wanted to go home then because to me that answered my question, that she knew they weren't coming back.
The longer this goes on, Brenda, how worried are you we may not get answers?
That leaves me sick to my stomach. I don't believe my grandchildren are alive. I have resigned myself to that one. But to not get answers, it's like, no. There's answers out there.
That's such a powerful statement from Belinda, and she's absolutely right. And that's what you should be using as your mantra when you're at home and getting frustrated to this case.
2 kids just don't disappear. And I'm so afraid that people will stop talking about it and they'll forget them.
So in August, the Globe and Mail and other media outlets received 13 documents. Whenever police need to, get a warrant or like make a records request access, they have to get an authorization from a judge. And in this case, police had all of those authorizations sealed because of the open court principle, and anything filed in the courts is supposed to be accessible to the public. The Globe and Mail, along with 2 other media outlets, made an application to unseal those documents. And so we successfully did. Some of the information is redacted, but there is quite a bit there. And the records requests were to request parents' bank records, cell phone information, video surveillance from companies to corroborate information that they had already given police.
You could also consider it building a case.
And so some of the information that we found that stood out for us in these documents was that police collected the toothbrushes from the home, that they found a sock and children's boot prints in the woods, that they went to lengthy avenues to identify as being the same type of boot Lily was wearing at the time she went missing. The documents also showed that Malayaia and Daniel's polygraph tests were found to have been truthful.
It's interesting when you start to ask yourself about these boot prints and what they don't want to really come forward and tell you, like Daniel or anybody, why it's significant to this situation specifically, do they? It's just that, there was a single boot print that matched here, and just so happened the same one was right in front of Janie's trailer in this freshly raked gravel. It reeks like a red herring in that sense. Not that it points to the kids possibly being there, but the fact that they just happened upon it is probably by design in this sense. So it's hard not to think that it's like a fabricated scene in this, but it still brings up the question: if that's going to be the way that you think about it, then you have to think about the person who staged the scene. And who would stage such a thing in this sense? And for what reason? And it just so happened that it was down by the pipeline, the same pipeline where Daniel really seemed to spend all of his time focused on. Of all the places out there, why would you be so focused on one particular part, I wonder? Not saying that it's necessarily a smoking gun, but it could be just a way to get the fuck away from the heat at the moment, which would be ground zero at the trailer, Janie's trailer. Yeah, 2 kids don't just disappear. Ann Warren, absolutely correct. 2 kids just don't disappear. People know that. That's why they keep trying to, reinforce these new terms that they put onto this legislature. This is how we treat missing kids situations now. With the idea is that everybody knows that 2 kids just don't disappear. But in the same breath, the RCMP should say, we make great efforts not to cast suspicion and doubt onto any, of what would otherwise be recognized as the prime suspects by nature, by proxy. Like there's no getting out of being a suspect if you're Janie, Malayaia, and Daniel in this. No matter what you say, how much you pretend to tell us, there's nothing that you can do that's going to shake that. Nor have you actually even tried other than say it. Yeah, you hope they got something off the pipeline and trail cams. Hopefully, maybe. Maybe Daniel was leading you right to the place where he buried them, but I doubt it. I don't want to even influence it. I don't even want to influence it that far. It's not important. I need to make this loud and clear. It's not important for me personally. It's important, but it's not important, like for me up here to talk about the case, that I subscribe to any theories that are out there. I don't mind them, but I'd rather not try to subscribe to them. I don't have to go past the fact that these people are lying and trying to cover up their guilty knowledge in that sense. I'm satisfied that they're the culprits in this circumstance. You know, the damage that way has been done. The rest, we need to figure out a way to get them to talk in order to admit to what it is that they have done. And even when we finally get to that point, they're going to minimize it the best that they can. So you're still not getting the actual 100 there, right? You know, you have to get enough information to hold over them to extract that admission and that confession. That's what would be ideal in my mind here. And that's not too far away. That's not such that's not such an absurd thought in that sense. But I'll tell you how you're not going to get that confession. You're not going to get it by getting up here and telling all the people out there how suspicious you are of Daniel and Malayaia, and how, you know, you're failing Jack and Lily in this circumstance because of a technicality or because of this, that, and the other thing, which really you'd rather not have anybody know at that point in time so that you can work yourself through the problems. That's how everything goes. It doesn't matter if it's a private business and trying to meet your monthly, your scheduling, you know. It's the same sort of thing. There's things that you don't want people to know, especially the difficulties that you're facing at any one time. We'd like to know that so we can criticize it properly. But it's realistic. My faith in the RCMP is at an all-time low. I'll say that, though. I'm a little concerned. But the dogs is a step in a positive direction to bring some sort of justice and closure. Mama Angie, what's going on? You're not surprised dogs are being brought in? It was a matter of them, in my opinion, all three on that property that day are nervous. Oh, right. It's easy to mask their emotions, and they have the need and desire, especially Janie, to tell you the reasons why they're feeling a certain way, why they're crying. You know, it would go, without saying, but the fact that they have their tenses all mixed up, and the fact that they've already sold to the fact that Jack and Lily are gone and aren't coming back again at such an early stage contradicts the claims that they made to the RCMP in the first place. Like, it wasn't an emergency situation then. You already have your guys' minds made up that the kids are already missing. That's not even something you'd naturally say in that circumstance. All right? And there's so many of those that you overlook them on because there's so many other ones to focus on. Again, not the smoking gun. But when you look at them all in totality, what it shows you is a contrast of absolute red on red. There's no contrast in red on red. Okay, we'll say red on black. When you recognize that the story, when it comes to being accountable as for your whereabouts and the circumstances leading up to two children that are now missing and presumed not with us anymore. Like, this is serious AF. You can't get any more serious here. And the superficial answers that they provided, along with the act of, it's just completely ludicrous. As though that doesn't mean you should be acting the exact opposite. No, it's just another thing in the circumstance. It doesn't matter how Daniel acts. Nothing's going to take it away from you having to be accountable at some day for those 2 children that were last seen on your property. They spent all of their time trying to put the blame back onto the kids as they voluntarily left. Now, a 4 and a 6-year-old child on top of that all, you really think that they're going to volunteer on a sub-zero morning to go off half naked, half dressed as their parents sleep in bed with no food, nothing, never to be seen again, all voluntarily? Like, all of these things, they had to put the blame back on them. They had to introduce this voluntary departure under the guise of just not knowing exactly what happened. The only door in the house that they had to have gone out of. You know, you would think that this should be fairly easy. But it's not fairly easy to extract a confession out of people who are actively trying to get away with murder. Let's hope, let's pray. If we're going to pray for anything and throw out a little hope for anything, let's hope and pray that the cadaver dogs register some decomp somewhere around any of the properties, any of the vehicles, the ATVs, the 5-speeds, the Friends. It's an odd thing to pray and hope for, but we're hoping so it brings a little bit more closure to the situation at hand for those investigating it, bringing soon-to-be charges against these people. Because should they register some decomp, you would think that would be pretty damning when you're trying to convince a jury of 12 people in a no body case. Amanda Graham, that quote from Malayaia you're bringing in here, you say, "See, I told you they were autistic." What kind of mother would say that when her children are missing in that sense? The disconnect is unreal. Well, the detachment from the reality is real. Like, it's her that doesn't know what autism is, and she's using it in a way that is meant to put blame back onto the victims, Jack and Lily, in the moment. That's what Malayaia did. Isn't that interesting? Because a caring parent wouldn't even be using a child's disability as for a reason why that they can't keep tabs on them. Is that what you're saying? No, you're wanting to use the disability as some sort of blanket for the kids being gone and never seen again and presumed dead. The fact that they were undiagnosed autistic based off of your opinions? Autism isn't a factor in anything here, other than Malayaia bringing it up as an excuse, but a way to act out in front of a greater group of people to try to essentially sell a story. So Malayaia needs to confess. Malayaia needs to confess, put all the blame back on Daniel where it should belong, and Janie, and figure out with police what the next steps are going to be. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard on Malayaia in this circumstance. You need to get out of this situation while you still can. Your relationship with Meadow is affected in the worst way as we speak right now. It's not an excuse for you to sit at home and pretend that you're somehow staying silent out of protection for Meadow when the establishment already came in and scooped your children up. All right? You want to do right by your child, you're going to go and work with authorities, and that's going to be your only hope to ever reuniting with your daughter in this sense. Okay? But how is it that you're going to raise a daughter knowing full well that someday that you're going to have to tell her that her father murdered her other 2 children? You got a lot to come to terms with. That's a lot. That's so much. It's probably something that she would avoid doing. Malayaia needs to be encouraged in the right way to come out and speak out against what's being done on the backs of Jack and Lily. We can see the pattern leading up to May the 2nd and what was occurring and the negative factors in your life that was building, the resentment that was building on the behalf from Janie especially. And then that's doing is putting an ear in Daniel, and Daniel's really walking around the house thinking that he is all that, and he really needs to reinforce Janie's problems again to Malayaia all the time, contributing to the fact that she's self-isolating away from everybody. She's self-isolating away alone in that tiny little trailer all the time. Time over time, these little things in the mistreatment of her kids don't go unchecked, especially by her. She disregards it. Maybe she's brainwashed into believing it's actually helping because she doesn't know what a strong father is supposed to look like in her life either. Daniel, a strong father figure. That was Malaya's hope. But is that the children's reality? Like, what was it really? What could it be really? I'm at a loss as to what Janie's problem with Malayaia would have been. Like, what is it really that they're insinuating? They use the situation when it arises to talk about how detached she was from the children. In what, though? What does that mean? For examples. It's hard to picture that. I have to think that, yeah, I could believe that Malaya's mental health was affected from living in that environment. It would have been a high stress environment, not just through her pregnancy, but having to deal with Daniel and their fights, and the fact that Cindy is encouraging Malayaia to get out. Like, nobody supports this relationship from the perspective of Malayaia. Nobody supports the relationship. She's she's the mother of Jack and Lily, and she's pregnant. She's got a new child. She keeps on subscribing to hopium with Daniel that things are going to work out for the better, but priorities are becoming mixed up. Esther, yes, you reminded me. Wade said that Malayaia doesn't give a flying F-U-C-K about these children. If anybody, I think Malayaia would be able to crack the most. The easiest. She's the least experienced in deception, and she's probably not the one that brought violence upon the kids, and she still probably somewhere inside has some humanity left in her. That's a possibility, Victoria. See, I think that we're not seeing a couple things that have happened because we can't fathom the relationship and the bizarre relationship and the family dynamic here. We don't know what it is we don't know, right? And Daniel recognizes that. They have fun with it. It's not difficult when you're the only one out there in the know and everybody else isn't. You're in a perfect spot to mislead. There's no way that Janie wanted to live in that trailer. There's no way that Janie was enthused about moving into the trailer. Why would somebody want to give up their home in that sense? One, because Daniel and Malayaia didn't have anywhere else to go. They had no money. Now Janie can tell you just how much she's sacrificed. That's Janie admitting to the fact that she never wanted to be out there in the first place. But she's doing it. She's doing it out of a favor to who exactly? To herself? Well, on one hand, she says that she can't handle all the noise of Jack and Lily and everything else. It's weird, number one, having, it's funny that none of these reporters are in real time asking them about stuff like this. Oh, whatever you guys say is just fine. Oh, we feel bad for you. Oh, give me a hug. Would you like a bottle of beer? I can come back and get some more information. Oh, that's real journalism, is it? Oh, shit. Amanda's saying, I think Malayaia told Daniel to shut the kids up, and he took it too far. It's probably, I'm almost certain that it probably, Amanda, you're right, that if we go back into the evening of May 1st, and you talk about the scenario from when they were in, getting their Starbucks and things, and getting back home, that there is some sort of conversation about disciplinary measures. In other words, maybe there's always the same things with kids. They never want to go to bed, right? They want to stay up all night. It could be anything in that sense. You're saying, where did that go? I think Malayaia told Daniel to shut the kids up, and he took it too far. So you're saying that Malayaia essentially told Daniel to do what he thinks best in this circumstance. Old Daddy Dearest here. Father knows best. I mean, that's really taking it far. I mean, it's one thing asking the kids to quiet down a little bit for the 4th and 5th time and then murdering them. That's a bit far. You're right. Like, that's hard to believe in that sense. There has to be more to it, but it could be Daniel's unpredictability combined with the effects of the substance abuse. All right, that would be a factor at that point in time. Daniel's trying to have a romantic night with Malayaia. In that sense, he's trying to have a coke and slut party at home again. You got all the lines dished out, and all the kids won't shut up in the next room. He's ruining. They're a buzzkill in that sense. That would send him into a rage. Got his hormones pumping. He's all dressed up, nowhere to go. But something happened. I shouldn't say but there. So, I'll do Janie and say so. So something happened. There is judging by the relationship, it wasn't very good. But there I go again. So you would think, thinking historically, Daniel and Malayaia are both talking about how wonderful the relationships are. How could it be wonderful in that sense? You don't get a sense of any positivity out of this relationship at any one time. It was marred with trouble, and everybody already knows that. But here they are dismissing it in front of the cameras. So that should tell you that they're not really in tune with being completely open with anybody, especially when it comes to their relationship. That's a sensitivity point. But we overlook these things and their importance to consuming the other information that they've brought towards us, right? So expect to be deceived. Expect to hear the bare minimum. You have the entire time. They've indicated that they were neglectful on that morning in replacement for everybody actually finding out or coming to learn what really happened to Jack and Lily. You had to make them disappear. And that plan, all of this and all of the planning in this, I can't see, and I don't know, but it certainly wouldn't be Malayaia as far as I can tell. We don't get to hear from her. But that's probably a big reason for that when it comes to what it is that we think we know about the situation. What we think we know about the situation is that we've identified that the information that they brought is not worth considering at this point. High likelihood of it all being fabricated. That's what we've come to after 4 months. Yeah, Donna, yeah, in hindsight, me too. It makes me sad. And I don't know why. I just, woulda, coulda, shoulda in these circumstances. It's a reminder as to how fragile and how close, how, well, not so much beautiful life really is, but how fragile it is. And how these things can happen to you. I do like talking about this, and maybe we'll come back later on tonight and talk about that, is the altercation at the end of the driveway and get onto Janie's statements. That'll be my next live, part 2 to this one. I was going to go live last night, but Mike was on. He was doing a late night stream. I see you guys in there talking in the chat. There's no possibility the investigators would ignore any of the relationship troubles and the troubles within the home leading up to it. That wouldn't make any sense. At some point, somebody's going to have to be talking about that. The fact that they want to pretend that nothing was wrong, but to the point where, like, hey, there's nothing wrong. Life was just tickety-boo. Absolutely. That stands out as a red flag when it's so clearly not. The fact that you want people to believe that everything is just fine, you went a bit too far. You go a bit too far. It's hard not to. It's hard to lie in these circumstances. They're not getting away with lies. I don't believe that for a second. Miss V, she quit when they came by. Maybe they asked for drug testing and they had to be sober. I'm not sure. Where do you do those when they are mandated? Oh, Miss V, I think that you probably have to go into an office, a special office set up for just such a thing. Boy, I'm in the wrong business. Probably a license to print money. Just another thing. Victoria's Secret, we don't. The reason Malayaia called Janie crying, demanding her to come back, and why they searched her RV 3 times. It wasn't over math if Malayaia already knew Daniel was doing it. Every child is different, and in that sense, every child with autism is different, and how they come to their diagnosis can be different. You're always, as a parent, you're always feeling that you're behind, or you're not quite doing all you can at any one time. It's just the way it is. Like, for example, we went and got we could recognize, at an early age of 3 and 4 that there was something wrong, and it was probably autism. But going through the process back at that point in time to get an actual diagnosis, there's a lot of the process didn't apply because of the age, because of the too young of age. So it was a different way. It wasn't ideal. Not saying that the diagnosis was wrong. It was just challenging. Oh, AB, this isn't popular. In your opinion, Janie disliked her because of her being First Nations? When I went to Pictou, there seemed to be a lot of trash talking about the First Nation people by older people. That's everywhere. It's a lot of places. That's something that people don't want to acknowledge, but there's stigma and there's a divide. Of course there is. Now we try to work through that, but it's comes with its own set of challenges. You wouldn't know any of that if you listen to the RCMP, because they're all about having reconciliation and all of this absolute bullshit propagandizing that they do on the backs of First Nations, making everybody else in the public think that there's no problems. Anyway. Listen, whether or not that's a factor, I don't know. I don't know Janie well enough in that sense. I don't know Janie well enough. It wouldn't surprise me. Malay is different. You don't have to say that she was prejudiced against Malaya because of her First Nations. She was there. She was different. She could have been Portuguese. She could have been a hot Filipino. Who knows? The fact that she was there and she was different, and she took over the place in Janie's eyes in that sense. Like, it wouldn't matter who the fuck it was. Okay? The fact that she came there and now Janie's got to alter her lifestyle because she's put between, a rock and a hard place, because she loves her dear Daniel so much and wants to help out, but she having to adjust her lifestyle is a bit of an inconvenience, considering it's Daniel's life, and he should be a big boy now, taking care of his own problems like Janie says, but he's not, because he still lives in your trailer, Janie. So that couldn't possibly be true, could it? Right? He's not exactly grown up and looking after his own problems, nor capable, if he's still at home sucking off mom's tit with his fucking wife and his new baby there. Right? So there's that. I'm not saying I'm holding that against them. Shit happens. But what I'm saying, and why I'm bringing it up, is that it's contradictory to the things that she's trying to have us believe. Tammy Davokes, good to see you with a beautiful name. Oh, I feel so classy saying that name. Janie liked Christy and her other grandkids. She didn't want a different set of circumstances. I think that's a good way to look at it, Tammy. So the onus was on Malaya to fill those particular boots, and that was her measuring tool. This was a different circumstance, and you're not living up to how good Daniel's ex-wife was to Daniel from her perspective. Yeah, Malaya was an outsider to Janie as well as Jack and Lily, right, Cracker? Christian, maybe Janie had big plans for Danny to marry his second cousin and it fell through. Logan? Almost had a match made in heaven. They almost had Meadow, and they were going to run off to the cabin just down the road and just live happily ever after. Probably in the trailer on Earl's lot. The one with the open door on it. It's free real estate right there. And by the way, Janie, it's better than living in a tent. So some of the things she shouldn't go too far in saying. What did she say? She said that, my place may not be much, but it's better than living in a tent. And I got to take exception to that statement. Have you ever seen some of the beautiful tents that people have set up and live out of historically throughout the years? Some of the richest men live in the desert in tents. Okay, a tent would be a step up from that broken down old RV that used to run. I mean, I've got no problem in being proud of what it is that you have there, Janie. No problem at all, okay? But the problem with all of this is that it wasn't all fixed up. The place was a shithole. And by the way, it still is a shithole because it hasn't been maintained, all right? It just wear and tear on the house over the years. And ain't nobody doing anything. That's the state it was in when the kids went missing. That's all that matters to us. We know that you cleaned thoroughly, covered your tracks, filled in the potholes, and raked for that fake pool that never came. AKA covering up all of the tire tracks from all of the activity the previous 12 hours. Tammy Workey, Janie and Earl have a lot of hate built up. No wonder the kids are awful. Yeah. Do you know what would have been the thing is Daniel and Janie, or Earl and Janie, and how combative that you can see, and we all see that they are. Could you imagine them going at each other? That's like King Kong and Godzilla. That's like King Kong and Godzilla, just nastiness. That would have been so epic of a nasty fight. And Daniel would have had to have dealt with that growing up, right? Daniel would have had to have seen how poorly that his mom and dad managed their issues and how they coped with that. And what he probably would have saw, I'm guessing, is a lot of rage and anger based off of abuse, mixed signals, maybe poor choices in the moments. And that would be an impression upon a child, sadly. And before you know it, Daniel turns into that exact same thing. He deals with his issues the exact same way. Yeah, don't get too panicked about it, Prairie. Yeah, they're bringing in cadaver dogs now. 4 months. It's better than 6 months. I'll give him that. Thank God it's not the 6-month mark. I would have been starting to worry. So hopefully, I guess the ace in the hole that they would have had if they have some sort of information, and let's pray for a miracle in that sense. I don't think it is. I think it's just a way for them to make it look like they're covering all of their bases in the normal processes of a missing persons case. They probably won't speak anything at all on Jack and Lily. Just how fantastic these cadaver dogs are, and how hard everybody worked to put them and brought them together, and how much they spent, and just who's going on holidays next week, things like important things. Yeah, they all struggle to control their emotions, Christian. Well, listen, if you're trying to cover up a double murder, you would be too, all right? You got to give them a little bit of grace. I give them a little bit of leeway that way. I understand. We understand that you're trying to get away with like capital murder ×2 here, you guys. We don't expect you guys to tell us the truth. But what point for an investigator does this bullshit end? You know, it's like, holy shit. You can't make yourselves look any more guilty. It doesn't matter where you live, it's how you take care of what you got. The place was a shithole. Belinda noticed it driving past on a few occasions and thought that they needed to tidy the place up. It's funny how she nicely mentioned that. Really what she's saying when she's saying that is that she's concerned after the fact on the condition and what the hell was going on in that place. She had no idea that her kids were there. Now she's really worried based on the fact of how shoddy it looked on her trips by, in other words. Be good, Miss V. Keep an eye out a little later. We'll be back on later tonight after dinner this Friday night. Gotta cook up some food, some burgers, and some potatoes. Daniel had issues from the beginning. He was jealous that if Malayaia went to Belinda's, she would get back with Cody. Amanda, I guess that's a good way of putting it, even though it may not be to the extent that you're saying, but that's a point. Like, I mean, that would be the root or the source of what would otherwise be jealousy in that sense, you know. And Daniel would deny being jealous. Like, he wouldn't even recognize that act as an act of jealousy, would he? I don't think he's very. I don't think he's all that up on identifying his own internal emotions in situations. Like, it's natural to have hesitations, perhaps, but it speaks more to the type that he wants Malayaia, and he's encouraging her to get past her past. Like, the way to to proceed forward is to just not learn from the past, ignore it, and focus solely on me and how wonderful I am and the future ahead of us. Never mind anything that you went through. And that, comes by his message talking about how Malayaia used to bring up her past traumas, and he used to have to tell her to shut up about it. What does that tell you? Oh, Mr. Sensitivity there, eh? So you pretty much sure that you had her already. You didn't even have to pretend to listen to her. You didn't even have to pretend that one. He just told her to shut the hell up. I don't give a fuck about your past traumas. And she put up with that. What the fuck? What the fuck? Man, she's a real keeper. She's a keeper. She'll pretty much put herself through any sort of abuse for this guy at this point because she doesn't feel like she has another choice. I don't know. I don't have all the answers for you, but, it makes you ask these questions. Shit. Whatever happened to a good old-fashioned, relationship that you had to put a little bit of work in to make the other person feel good about themselves sometimes? Give them a little compliment on the dinner. Tell them to get your slippers in a less demanding way. The good old days. Kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah, Chris, there's a lot of stress in his latest phone interview. Are you talking about Daniels? I'm going to have to go out on a limb already preemptively before I've even actually heard it and say that it's all just for show to make it look like he has spent so much time on this case. He's just so heartbroken over the case. It's ridiculous. It's just a replacement. Showing you emotion in that moment is a replacement for Daniel because he's run out of things to tell you. Now he just wants to show you some emotion, and that should be telling you how it is that he feels. Oh, I can't even. Doing like a Candace Wells. Oh, I'm triggered. I don't think Daniel is the epitome of emotional intelligence. No. Must be low self-esteem, all-time low. Yeah, that's low self-esteem for Daniel as well. You should have encouraged her to be over at Belinda's more. You should be taking the kids every weekend. Take them all the time. Get them out of the house. Give them things to do. You want to encourage that. That's a more rich environment for your children. And that's on somebody else. That's the less you have to do. More rich for the kids, less work on you. You would have thought that would have been a perfect thing, but it goes to show you that Daniel had never really considered the mental health or the well-being of Jack and Lily at any one time, doesn't it? because to totally negate all the people who cared about, no matter how you felt about them or how you perceived them, you don't have any personal experience with them, so you get all of your information through Malayaia. But it's more likely in this scenario that Daniel made the decision for Malayaia in that sense, or helped, like Belinda said, he was the motivating factor behind all of this. So it sounds, by the way, that she didn't actually say that. It leads me to believe that after what she said. I should clarify. What's up, Silver Gold? Yeah, Amanda, you know what? That's a probably a good point. Daniel's a bully of both women and children because it's clear that's how Earl taught him. Why don't you put down that camera? Why don't you be a man and put down that camera, Daniel? Are you kidding me at this point in time? Now, granted, we don't know what led up to that little altercation. Maybe Earl's in the right, but I doubt it. Just to be honest with you. Why so tense? You steal them kids? Whoa, what is it you guys are talking about in the background around here? Something I don't know? The other grandmother would have seen the bruises, and that's why they cut her out of their lives. Tammy, are you talking about Belinda? Well, I don't know if that's the sole reason, but I can understand why you might think that way. I think it happened a lot earlier. Like Belinda got iced out way in the beginning before, or as Daniel and Malayaia got together, because Belinda, Malayaia was telling Belinda about Daniel, this new guy that she had met. Just this dreamy douchebag. Oh, he's just the coolest dude. He's got this 5-speed with a clutch kit in it. It's going to make a great getaway car someday. But I mean, you're not wrong, Tammy. It's just we don't have to be as direct as that. It doesn't have to be the only reason. You're right in thinking that way down the same lines, but it eventually got to a place where the kids were being abused more frequently in that sense, and it became normal to treat them a certain way. And because they got treated this way, second class, differently, because Janie and Daniel say Malayaia wasn't doing her motherly duties. That's why the kids were suffering. Isn't that what they're really telling us when they bring all of that up? They're acknowledging that the kids, there was something different, something wrong with the kids, but it all had to do with Malayaia not looking after her kids here at the home properly. Now, what could that possibly be in that circumstance? I think that's a load of shit from their perspective. I'm not saying that Malayaia was doing her all. I'm just saying that they're making that up and using it at a time that they select in this circumstance that puts the suspicion back on Malayaia and essentially blaming her from afar. I don't think that's actually they felt that way. I don't doubt that, but I don't actually subscribe to much of that. And you might think, well, how could that be? Because obviously the kids are missing. She could have done more. Well, I guess you've got a point. You can always do more as a parent, probably. But I'm just trying to say that it's suspect that Daniel and Janie used that on multiple occasions to use against Malayaia, as though that was the reason, essentially, for why the kids are missing in the first place, because Malayaia was a shitty parent. But you guys were still the last people to see with her. And all of a sudden when the kids are missing, it's all Malaya's problem as opposed to everybody else in the household. That's not right. As though that would be a thing in this circumstance. You know, even if there was some truth to it, it wouldn't be good. There wouldn't be that without you guys as well. all Malaya's family got iced out in that sense? She was isolated from others, right? Yeah, she was isolated from others through isolating herself and others out. Like, that's what's going to happen when you start taking these substances. Is that what we're seeing? Or is it less of the substance abuse and more of the Daniel influence? You know, that constant conditioning that Malaya doesn't need anybody else. We're fine. The kids just need to listen more, and they'll be fine too. We'll tell them what's good for them. You know, it's too bad that, well, why she would be motivated to, you know, it's one thing to get full custody. It's another thing to ice everybody out, to cut everybody else off and take them out of your kids' lives. Since she's probably been a positive influence in their lives up to that point and loves the kids. Like, why would you take that away from somebody? Take that away from the kids? Seeing how they don't have enough of that in their lives. And like, think that Daniel and Janie are going to be a replacement for the bond and the love that's been building there since birth. I mean, come on. Yeah, Darlene Malaya's dad, that's what he does, some tracking and things like that. For deer. for game. But you can apply it to people too, but they don't need a tracker because the kids didn't wander away. They're not interested in you know, Malaya's dad coming out and finding the disposal site at all. Why that should have stopped him is beyond me. First thing I would have done if I was in Malaya's family is just go and spill everything I know, because I would have been fucking right suspicious of Daniel for the get-go. But you can only do so much being suspicious from them, right? You can only insist on giving them so much information. Not that that would have been a determining factor in arresting them. How do I know they didn't do that? I would have had to have thought, you know, Wade would have said a lot more than he did to Tint to the RCMP, I would expect. I would feel great if I knew that Tint said everything to the RCMP that he did to Tint, or Wade said everything to the RCMP that he did to Tint. Yep, that's typical Tammy, throwing blame around. At selective areas. Oh, right, yeah, it's such a mystery. Love when they bring that up. Yeah, that's a real mystery right there. Janie and Daniel. No such thing. She could have reached out any time. Phone at school. She is a princess. Such a good of a mom. Well, Malaya's dad is different than Wade Davis. Or what's Wade's last name? Wade. How come I just forgot his last name? I don't know. Malaya's stepdad. They're different people, right? Belinda Bangi, you're refusing to believe that they're dead. Well, you're fighting a losing battle. I mean, that's illogical. How are the kids going to remain alive? So you're just subscribing to the fact that there's a stranger abduction here. That's not something I subscribe to at all. The answer's staring you dead right in the face. Belinda, you're not Janie, are you? Donna, I agree, and we really don't know if she has cooperated with the police. She has kept quiet. Well, she'll probably be open to answer questions. I wonder if she's got the rank of junior detective like Daniel does. Wade Paris, thank you. Wade Davis, Wade Paris. Wade Davis is probably a basketball player, isn't he? An NBA player or something. Wade Davis. Dwayne Wade. D Wade. P Wade. That'll be P Wade. All right, y'all. 3 hours and 21 minutes. I'm going to wrap this one up, go make some supper, and stay tuned to about 8 p.m. after Eastern Daylight Savings Time, after I eat my dinner. We'll be back, and we'll see what this... we'll finish this stupid thing off if we have the balls, but we're going to figure out what these cadaver dogs, what this little RCMP conference is all about. Maybe we should be doing that live, but I need some food. Thanks for sticking it out. We'll see you back afterwards. Peace.